Okay, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is James White, and I'll be one of your hosts today. A couple of orders of business first, and actually we did the hand raising, so I won't do that again, but just wanted to let you know there'll be a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. If you have questions, you can type them in anytime during the webinar. Just type them into the questions panel on your screen and click send, and we'll answer those questions at the end. If you don't see a questions panel, then there's a little toolbar that's part of webinar. Go to webinar, and it's got a orange arrow, and you click that, and it opens up the panel. So anyway, put your questions in at any point. You don't have to wait till the end. The topics we're going to cover today are going to include a presentation by Sandy King of Arenia Consulting, and then a short presentation and a demonstration on the new Electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition of Fitrix ERP. Can you back up one slide? Okay, all right, so put it on, Randy, I'm sorry I've gotten the slides out of order somehow. If you can put it on Sandy's first slide, we'll introduce Sandy King with Arenia Consulting. Sandy?
Hello everyone, good afternoon, and good morning if you're on the West Coast. I'm Sandy King, President of Arenia Consulting Group. And what I'm going to talk about today is how do you figure out if your business systems are really working to support you as a small, medium-sized manufacturer of electronics products. So, Randy, can you go to the next slide, please? So, about Arenia Consulting, we've been in business about 20 years. We work primarily with manufacturers and distributors. My background is operations and IT management. I worked in the industry before, and for the last 12 years I've been doing consulting. The Arenia Consulting focuses in with their clients on process improvement. We evaluate existing business systems. We help to improve those business systems, or if they don't work well for your organization, we'll help you in the selection of those business systems. We are software agnostic. So we're trying to find the right fit for the company. And we also do IT systems management consulting and implementation services for business systems. Next slide, please. So are you really, I saw a sign on a client's desk the other day that says, really? So are your business systems really, really supporting your business? So it's kind of stuck with me. So next slide, please. So the way you can answer that question is, can you see your key performance indicators based upon your role in your business? Can you see every single day that how you're tracking to your key performance indicators? Or do you have to use spreadsheets and Excel to actually do a lot of your daily work? Or is there a lot of paper? Is there a lot of manual workarounds necessary to complete transactions in your business system? Are you able to keep up with all your compliance needs like RoHS, or if you have a European component REACH? Can you track your serial numbers the way that you need to satisfy your controls and your customers? Can you capture the ever-demanding quality information that your customers are requiring? I work a lot with aerospace companies that need to have an AS9100 certification, and they need lots of very specific quality information. Do you have visibility to your product history? So can you service your products once they've been sold to customers well by easily and quickly accessing the product history? Are your bill of materials accurate? Can they satisfy the business, all aspects of the business? And can you see if you're making money or not? Are you profitable at any point? throughout your process and your systems. And can you introduce new products? In electronics, as we all know, new product introduction is a fact of life. You're constantly introducing new products to stay competitive. And can you easily and quickly introduce new products without reworking product after it's been started onto your production floor? Next slide, please. So some challenges I've experienced in working with the electronics manufacturer are compliance, as we just discussed. Your customers are often wanting smaller quantities of very unique products. Your customers are also expecting instant support. So, hey, I got this problem with this product, or can you re-engineer this product? Can you change this? And they want their products fulfilled fast, their orders fulfilled faster and faster and faster. And customers are also requiring very specific reporting with every shipment. And the quality of components is getting more difficult. If you're buying large volumes from overseas, sometimes the sourcing of those products, the quality is sacrificed. So it's often a challenge. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to present is a methodology that I've used in helping you to answer all of those questions and figure out how to get the right system or your system to deliver to all of those challenges. So I'll present this methodology. Next slide. So first step, figure out how you do business today. So what is your current state? I use process mapping. I use Microsoft Visio to capture all of in a cross-functional way, all of the process steps that it takes in your business for your current state. We also capture the information source. So where's the data coming from? And if there's specific forms that are used, then who within the organization, what role is actually executing the process step? And the hardest thing of all in this very first activity is to really stay true to what's happening. Often your subject matter experts will see something that's not working satisfactorily when you start to map these things, and they'll try to fix it. So that they'll say, oh, no, we're going to fix that tomorrow. And so you want to really stay true to how you're doing business today. You might hide an issue. Then you review and validate the processes with those subject matter experts. You actually show them the map and have them say, yeah, this is how you do business. And what the result is often in my client base is that there's more than one way that a process is being executed. So you've got to update your charts to reflect that. Next slide, please. So then you have, I call it a complaining session. You spend some time with all of the subject matter experts in the cross-functional map, and you say, hey, what doesn't work in the process? What are the pain points? What is broken in the process? And capture all of those pains. And then, and only then, do you decide, you say, okay, let's define our future state. If we had perfect everything, what do we really need to execute the business, to make our business decisions every single day? Take the constraints off. You've got no system constraints, no money constraints, no people constraints. And then define, add to that future state your strategic needs. So is your company going to grow through acquisition? Are you going to add a different product line? So please take those into consideration. And then after you've completed that future state, then you document the output is your business requirements. What do we need a system to perform and do for us to satisfy our business needs? And then you take a look, you do a gap analysis and take a look at your future state and compare it to your current state and do an analysis. Does my current system deliver to these future state requirements and my general business requirements? And you can partner with your business system vendor if you have one. If not, there are people that can help you with that. Next slide, please. So here's a recap. So document your current state, validate your processes with the subject matter experts, complain about the process and figure out what doesn't work, what is painful, and then dream. Define your future state, document your business requirements, and then perform the gap analysis, and then do your final assessment, which is the next slide, please. So Can your current system meet your needs? Maybe it just needs some tweaking. Maybe you need to adjust a process. Maybe you've got the wrong role executing something. Maybe the upgrade, maybe you have to upgrade your current system. Got to make sure that the system's going to grow with where you're going as an organization. And then if it does meet your needs, what's your next steps? Next, build a plan, okay, to improve your process or re-implement, or build a stronger relationship with your business system vendor if that is applicable. Next slide, please. If not, then you need to look at your processes. Can you get some quick wins? Can you change a process and actually improve it slightly while you're out searching for a new software? And build a plan for searching for something new. Get some immediate process improvements and then search. Pardon me. Next slide, please. So how do I find? So let's say the answer was no, my current system can't meet my needs. They're going to go out of business. I got to find something new quickly. So how do I find a system that's going to meet my unique needs within my budget? I have a lot of money to spend on systems, right? And then it can be deployed fast so that I don't interrupt business at the organization too badly. And I want something that's not going to be obsolete in the next 5 years. It's going to grow with my business strategically. And I want a business, an ERP company that will partner with my company to meet my needs and will support me. They can be dependable. They answer the phone. They're reliable. And they advance with technology. All important aspects beyond functionality and features. Next slide, please. So there's some facts you need to be aware of. There's over 3,600 of these systems to choose from. A lot of them are designed very generically. They're horizontal packages. They're not designed to meet your specific needs as in the industry you're in. Most of these types of applications, software applications, have a life cycle that will last your company for 15 years. So it's not a trivial decision. And so my advice is to obtain some guidance. Be in the driver's seat with, here's some rules that I pass on to my clients. You need to be in the driver's seat with software vendors. You need to own what your information needs are. And please take the necessary time to find the right system for you. And solicit help. There's people like me and Aurinia Consulting around the country that can help you in this process. And next slide, please. Here's my contact information. I'm based out of Seattle, Washington. And I really thank you and Fitrix for allowing me this opportunity to discuss helping you to find a business system that will really meet your needs. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sandy. Next slide, please. Now Randy Johnson and I are going to spend a few minutes giving you a special sneak preview of the new Fitrix ERP Electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition. Next slide, please. So we're going to give you start by giving you a little bit of background information on our company, which is 4th generation software, and on our product, which we call Fitrix ERP. We're going to overview some of the key features that are important to electronics manufacturing, and we'll talk briefly about implementation services, highlight a few of our customers, and then there'll be a quick demonstration of the Fitrix ERP product configurator module. Next slide, please. Fitrix is a 21-module ERP software suite. It's designed for small and mid-sized discrete manufacturers and wholesale distributors. The first version was delivered in 1990. Since then, we've continuously improved and expanded Fitrix, and it's been widely deployed in numerous industries ever since. All the modules are consistent, they're fully integrated, and Fitrix uses a state-of-the-art SQL relational database. Next slide, please. Included with Fitrix are 5 accounting modules, 3 distribution modules, and also a customer relationship management or CRM module. Next slide, please. Fitrix also has 12 feature-rich manufacturing software modules. These plus the accounting, distribution, and CRM module are the foundation that the electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition is built on top of. This is proven software. It's been deployed at a wide variety of customer sites and in many different industries and over many years. Next slide, please. So we're excited today to introduce the new Fitrix ERP Electronics Manufacturing Industry Edition. This new Industry Edition leverages the 21-module ERP software with the purpose of delivering a software product that's specifically designed to meet the needs of small and mid-sized electronics manufacturers. It's priced and packaged so that it's affordable, easy to implement. And now Randy Johnson is going to talk in more depth about some of the key features of this exciting new product. Take it away, Randy.
Thank you, James, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm pretty fired up to talk to you about some of the important features in Fitrix Manufacturing today and hopefully show you how they relate to some of the critical success factors that Sandy already mentioned in her presentation. Many of these features have been in the product for years, and others are fairly new. The first one we're going to talk about is the multi-level bill of material. Rather than a single-level flat bill where all the parts are lumped together, the multi-level bills let you set up the material being used in production as a hierarchy of subcomponents, and then they're grouped together to form a more natural structure. And for a lot of companies, this actually matches the way an item is assembled in production. So if you have cells or assembly lines feeding into other cells, this structure naturally follows that flow of material. For make versus buy, companies often have to decide from time to time if it makes sense to outsource production to another vendor. And the multi-level bills make it easier for you to see that subcomponent breakout and the materials that might be good candidates for outsourcing. Another advantage with multi-level bills is that when you're considering switching out a component, maybe to a different vendor, you can look at another multi-level view that looks at it from the component up as opposed to the top level down to see what parts of the bill might be affected by that change. And lastly, multi-level bills can show engineering changes when they're made at a lower level, how they affect intermediate subcomponents and top levels in the bill where that component is used. This is an example of our multi-level or indented bill of material in Fitrix Manufacturing. And we see a bill for the Mac laptop. And we see the grouping of components and subcomponents under this column called level, so that directly under the Mac laptop we have a disk drive, hard drive, a keyboard, and a mouse that are purchase parts that go directly into the laptop. But if we look at the USB flash drive, we can see that it also has subcomponents of its own. So we go down through multiple levels in the bill of material to see the total structure for that Mac laptop. You'll also notice a column here called bill, and this is a flag within Fitrix that allows you to define multiple bills of material for the same item. So we could have, for example, an engineering bill, a manufacturing bill, or an as-built bill, and a service bill that might be used after a product's been shipped to customers that list out the items that could be serviced. There's another interesting column here called Phantom, about halfway across the screen. This allows you to identify subcomponents as exploding to their individual components on a parts list, so that when I create a production order to make a Mac laptop, rather than saying that I need a USB flash drive, the system knows that it's going to explode out and use components that are underneath that individual item. We can also see on the right here a details window that shows you some detail for the component itself. So I can see the operation where that component might be used. I can see effective starting and ending dates for that component in the bill, and also see how it's issued. Am I going to use a component issue or a backflush transaction to report production or usage of the components? The next subject is the serial and lot number tracking. In Fitrix, you can define manufactured and purchased items to be controlled by a serial number, a lot number, or both. The serial and lot numbers can be automatically assigned to items when they're received from purchasing or production, or you can manually enter them in cases where maybe you want to use your supplier's serial number, say, for a purchased item. Then when you use the items in production or shipping, you can enter the lot or serial number that you want to use by picking it from a list. So it minimizes keystrokes for that selection process. And then all the usage details are kept in history. So it's easy to see that the serial and lot composition of the component materials that are used in production. And then you can see the details of this composition, and it helps with communicating with vendors whenever an issue with a produced item is related to its purchased components. Here you see one of our serial lot inquiries called the serial lot composition, and we can show here that we produced an item 4006,000, and when we produced it into inventory, it was assigned a serial number NGC4192. We can see the production order that it was built on and when it was placed into inventory. And then you can also see down below, for those component materials that were also controlled by serial or lot number, we see the serial numbers that went into them and the locations that they were pulled from to support the production. If we wanted to, we could take a look at any one of these lower level items with their serial number and go back to the original vendor and purchase order that those items were received on. The next subject is traceability and recall management. In addition to the serial and lot breakdowns that we just saw in production, Fitrix also stores sales history of all controlled items by customer and by sales order when they're sold. So any item that could be recalled is displayed or printed, showing all the customers with shipments of the items with quantities and dates. And again, when you use this with serial and lot tracking, any trickle-down effect on those items that might have an impact with purchase lots or serial numbers can be quickly noted back to the vendor. So here's an example of one of our traceability windows. This is our serial master, and it shows that we produced a lot called dark sherry of an item code CS1.6. It shows the production order that the item was made on, the date that it was produced, and we have the quantity that was received into inventory. Down below, it also shows customer identifiers and sales orders where this lot was shipped out to customers after production. So we can see two cases here where we shipped quantities of 10 to a customer called Denver on individual sales orders. And then we're kind of jumping ahead to the next feature, but you see a box to the right here called warranty, and this allows us for those controlled items to define a number of warranty days that the item was going to be covered. And then if we have work that's done to cover warranty on an item after the fact, we'll keep track of the cost for material, labor, and any revenue associated with that warranty work as well. And as we just mentioned, the warranty tracking, that's we just saw the previous screen with the example of the warranty days and the actual shipments to customers. Those individual shipments take the warranty days along with the invoice dates to calculate a warranty expiration. And then when those warranted items are potentially requested for a return from a customer, if the date that the customer is requesting a return is outside that warranty period, the order taker will get messages about the fact that the warranty has expired for those items. We do offer full support for material returns via RMA. So the RMA authorization form can be sent to the customer. The materials typically return with the RMA and then examined for either exchange or repair. The replacement or repair orders are linked back to the original return and its original sale, so we have full traceability of original sale through return and then rework or repair associated with the return. And then any warranty work that's done in-house or in the field can be managed by warranty work orders that are also tied back to the original sale to properly account for warranty cost and see what the overall profitability of items are that are sold under warranty. Next feature is our make-to-order and make-to-stock. This feature lets the same manufactured item be built to stock for later sale from inventory, or it can be built to a specific customer order, which essentially bypasses the trip through inventory altogether. For a to-stock environment, demand is typically going to come from either sales orders or sales forecast, or a combination of the two, and we support both. The planning applications will create planned orders to produce and purchase items using the industry standard ordering policies that you're all probably familiar with. Make-to-order items, on the other hand, have a much more direct link between a sales order and the associated production. So the item on a sales order automatically creates a production order, and then it's committed to the sale. So when it's produced, rather than flowing through inventory, it's immediately staged to the sales order so that it's ready for shipment. And the make-to-order items can start with a standard bill of material and a labor routing, but then they can be changed for a specific order. And if those changes are made for that specific order, those as-built details are retained in history for future reference. So I can always go back and see how a specific item was built in a make-to-order environment. This collection of windows that you see here give you a better feel for the relationship between the different levels in our production system. So they will show a sales order on the left with customer and line item information. And you can see that our line item uses a special line type called MTO, which stands for make to order. That's the cue when the sales order is saved to automatically create a production order to feed that sales order. So the due date for the production order matches the requirement date from the sales order. And then you can see a window over here to the right where when I'm saving the production order, it does a real-time analysis of purchase items that would be needed to support that production. And if any of those component items are short, we'll be prompted to automatically create a purchase order that would also be directly associated with and committed to the production order. That PO can be created in a held status so that the emails could be sent to purchasing managers or buyers who would approve the PO for release. So you can kind of see how the flow of material works from purchase through production to sales and then ultimately to shipment to the customer. Next feature is our product configurator. You can get to our configurator directly from sales order entry while the CSR is taking an order, or you can do it from production entry in the case where you might want to make a configurable item and put it in stock right away. Configurations are displayed as simple questions and answers to the order taker, and they have a conversational format so that the order taker can capture the right information the first time in an easy format instead of having to go through multiple calls with the customer to get it right on multiple calls. Under the covers, the configured items have a base bill of material and a labor routing, and then they have dynamically added materials, labor, and miscellaneous charges that are brought in from options that are activated by answers to questions. As the product is being configured, the cost, price, and margin are all calculated in real time, so you've got a quick view of the profitability of a product as the order is being placed. And then options for the configurator can be set up so that you can attach pictures to those options so that part of the question and answer session will be to show pictures to the order taker so that they can confirm with the customer that they're getting exactly what they want. This is an example of the product configurator that displays for an order taker. And you can see some summary information at the top that confirms that this configuration relates to an order that I'm working with. It also allows you to define something called a catalog, and this is a free-form identifier for a specific configuration that would allow you to save a configuration under an identifier and then be able to reuse that to save keystrokes later on. You'll see in the demonstration in a few minutes that answers to questions that you see below here, they can activate options. They can also affect other questions and answers that might be turned on or off. So you select a certain feature or option from a question, that might activate another sub-feature that the client would have access to as well. And then you can also see here we have cost and price, and behind the scenes we're also calculating what the margin, both the margin amount and margin percent would be for that order being placed. And again, we'll see demonstrations of that product in just a few minutes. The available to promise and advanced planning features allow you during sales order entry for any item that's not available from inventory, it's immediately placed on back order, and an available date is calculated real time by the system so that the customer knows when they'll be able to get that item if it's not available immediately. If you're using the advanced planning applications, this available date is the It's the next available receipt, either from an active production order or a planned production order. If you use our finite production scheduling feature, this date could also be based on an available receipt, next available receipt, or it can be based on a real-time analysis of the available component inventory combined with the plant capacity to produce. So we're actually seeing if you have the plant resource to build that item, and the date that gets calculated from that would be based on the time it takes to bring in any of those short components and the time required to do the production. That's all happening real time while the order is being placed. So we can see from this example of our, again, going back to our sales order entry screen, in this case, we're placing an order to a customer, and they want 25 units of an item, but we don't have any of those units in stock at the time. So because of that, the back order information window comes up, and it shows the quantity that could be shipped immediately. In this case, it's 0, and the entire quantity would be back ordered. And in that case, then, we will calculate a back order available date to let the customer decide if the order should proceed. The features within our compliance part of our software include the ability to store the manufacturer's name, part number, and a part description with every item that we set up. We also support multiple sources of user-defined compliance by item, including the RoHS and REACH, some of the entities that Sandy talked about earlier. And we can attach PDF documents related to the full material declaration or any other compliance certificate with a component item. And because we have that at the component level, and I've already mentioned the multi-level bill of material feature, that compliance is then pushed up through the multi-level bill to show the related compliance to the items that are at the production level. And finally, we track which vendors don't provide compliance documentation so that they can be removed from the approved vendors list and replaced after an appropriate grace period. And the last feature I'll talk about is our quality management feature, supporting collection of data on the shop floor with user-defined criteria for capture of test results, instruments or device that you might have used, and alerts. So the frequency of capture for that data can be done at multiple levels within a production run. I can do it at the component level when I'm issuing the component to production, or at the end of a process when the completed item is being received and inspected to go into inventory, or I can also report at individual labor steps in a production order's labor routing. This user-defined data that I mentioned can be text, numeric, or dates, and you define that by item and component and or operation for reporting during the production process. And lastly, the test results can be used for reporting and analysis and to affect downstream workflow. So that's kind of a quick review of the features in Fitrix today. Back to you, James.
Thank you, Randy. Next slide, please. Just want to give a little bit of background on our company. We're fourth-generation software, and you see a few of our customers. We're founded in 1987, so just celebrated our 26th year in business recently, based in Atlanta, Georgia. We've got hundreds of customers. Most of those are in North America, and they're in a lot of different industries, but primarily discrete manufacturers and wholesale distributors. Next slide, please. So here comes the slide. So one of our customers is MCE. They're out of San Jose, California, and they're a contract assembler of microcomputer-based server appliances. They've been using Fitrix since 2010, and they use a lot of the key features in Fitrix, including the multi-level bill of material with phantoms, serial number tracking, and also barcode support. We provided a complete turnkey implementation of Fitrix for them. They have about 20 users, and their management has told us that they could not have supported their significant recent growth if they had not implemented Fitrix ERP. Next slide, please. We have a full range of implementation services. You see the list there. Also comprehensive software updates and support. and we cater to customers ranging from some that are very self-sufficient to others that want a full complement of services and everything in between. Next slide, please. Okay, Randy is now going to give us a quick demonstration of one of the Fitrix ERP software modules, Product Configurator. Take it away, Randy.
Thanks, James. Okay, we're going to pretend that I'm an order taker here. I'm placing a sales order to my contact Steve Smith at the Olympic Auto Warehouse. He's given me a call and said that he'd like to place an order for one of our prototype robots. So I started the order for Steve, and you can see that I've got all of the shipping information for the order in general. And in the lower part of the screen, I'm defining the line items for what I'm going to be either shipping from stock or producing for Steve at Olympic Auto Warehouse. So in this case, I'm working with my B9 robot, and we can see, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have a line type here called MTO, and this says that I'm not going to ship this item from stock. I'm going to make it and feed it directly back to the sales order and then ship it to Olympic. So once I enter the quantity for the item, the default price for that item shows up automatically, and then it immediately prompts me that this is a configured item, and it asks me if I want to go into the configuration now. So I'm talking to Steve on the phone, and I want to go ahead and configure this robot as we're talking. So I'm going to click yes. The next window that pops up is a selection choice that lets me identify a new set of configuration options for this robot, or if I wanted to, if maybe this was another customer that had already ordered a robot with a specific set of options, and they just wanted to call back and order another one with the same exact properties, I could have saved that first configuration under what's called a catalog number and then just retrieve that and bring that into the new order. But I'm going to say now that Steve's the first-time buyer for the robot, so I'm going to click that I want to use a new configuration. And I'll give just a second. I think the screens are coming up a little bit slow for everybody. So I'm going to give just a second for the configuration screen to show up. And again, at the top of the screen, you can now see the confirmation that this is a configuration for a sales order that I've started. It's sales order number 9, line number 1. It is definitely for the B9 robot. I'm going to be producing this and shipping it from Miami production facility. I'm not using a catalog. If I wanted to save this configuration under a catalog, I could type in a new catalog identifier here. And I can see that if I didn't change anything to do with the configuration of this robot and just accepted it as is, it would have a net price of $22,400, cost of $12,300, so I have a margin of $10,100 or 45%. So as I'm talking to Steve and I'm telling him that the default head bubble is clear, I look at the list of choices, and Steve can see that if he wants, he could order a neon head bubble. So I'm going to select the neon bubble, and when I do that, I want you to watch what happens to the list of questions on the screen. I'm going to select OK for that, and you'll see that a new question popped up that said, gee, now that I know you have neon, do you want green or do you want purple? So I'm going to, again, just verify my list of choices, and when I see the two different bubble types show up, I have a picture next to each one that shows me what that purple neon bubble is going to look like. Steve decides he likes that, so I'm going to select the purple bubble. The next item in the list is a choice for a camera, and I can either select a camera or not. And the default here is to show a camera, and you'll notice that in addition to having the camera, I have a choice about the number, the type of lens. It could be 100 millimeter, 200 millimeter, or 500. In each one of those lenses, I see a picture that shows me what that lens looks like. If I select the choice to skip the camera, again, watch the list of questions, and when I select no, you see that the corresponding question about the lens type now goes away. Since I don't want a camera, it doesn't make any sense to ask for what kind of lens, so I take that off the list of choices. So I'm going to go back and select yes for the camera, because I do want that, and I do want to use the default 100 millimeter lens. And I'll go down here and also select that I'd like, when they do the installation of the voice software, I want to use the female voice. And then the last thing I'll do is look at under the soil sampler. For Steve's use in the Olympic Auto Warehouse, they obviously don't need a soil sampler, so I'm going to unselect or turn off that option. Now you'll notice, again, I want you to see what happens when we say that we don't want the soil sampler. Right now we have a price of $23,000. If I say no to the soil sampler, we can see that it just knocked $1,000 off the price of the robot, because that was a $1,000 option on the soil sampler. So this kind of gives you a flavor for how those questions can be turned on or off, and also how the selection of options will affect both the cost and price. There's one additional level of detail that the CSR may or may not choose to access while they're configuring an item. If I click on the options button here, this will show me at a more detailed level the material and labor that's going to go into the production side of the build of this robot. So for the base robot, it always has a head, leg pack, and a torso, and then there are always going to be labor steps that will assemble the head, assemble the torso, do the final assembly, and install the voice software and the operating system for the robot. The second section within the options window here show me individual materials that are going to come into play for those additional options that I selected. So we see the options, and we see the breakdown of how that cost and price is affected by the individual items. So I'm going to save this configuration, and then I'll go ahead and save the order. And just real quickly, I want to show you how this affects the production side. So we've saved a sales order. Now I want to go back and look at the production order that was automatically created to build this robot. So I'm going to go back into the order and click on a Make to Order button. Give that a couple of seconds to come up. And here we'll see the robot production order that's going to build the 1 unit of that prototype robot. And I see an association to the base sales order, so I know that when this robot is manufactured, I'm not going to put it in stock and hold it for shipment. It's going directly to a customer order. I can also look at components, and here I see the full breakdown of, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, a multi-level bill. This is a multi-level bill that exploded through phantoms to get to individual components and are being shown for production. And you can see that a number of these components have a negative availability, and the system will be prompting me for creation of purchase orders to satisfy those shortages. So I can create purchase orders that will satisfy the shortage, be directly fed into the production process, and then get transferred over to production, and then the item is built and made available for sale. So that's kind of a quick overview of our product configurator. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Randy. Bring up the next slide, please. Great. Before we move to the question and answer, just wanted to remind everyone to mark your calendar if you'd like to attend our next webinar on June 13th. It's going to be how to implement ERP in 90 days in your electronics manufacturing business. And this is presented by Sandy King again of Arenia Consulting, geared specifically for manufacturers of electronics. Next slide. So we'll move to the question and answer. Once again, you can submit questions by typing into the question panel and click send. If you don't see a question panel, you should see an orange arrow on the webinar toolbar. Click that and you'll see a question panel. So if anyone has a question, please key it in and we'll do our best to answer it. Okay, we have our first question. The question is this product fully released? I guess I'll take that one. That's a great question and one I'm happy to answer. Everything you saw in the product presentation today is either in the product or it will be by August 1st. A lot of what we've shown has been in Fitrix for quite some time, but we've added some new features and extended some features specific to the electronic manufacturing industry, and some of those are in there now, and a few of them we're still wrapping up. For example, we made some enhancements to recall management and warranty tracking. We've increased the visibility of the available to promise information in several places. We made some updates to the compliance support side. We've made on the quality management, we've made a more automated way to capture data there. And actually, we timed this webinar so that if someone came to the webinar and wanted the product right away, even, that by the time you'd be ready for the actual software, we would have it, just assuming a normal buying cycle and a 90-day implementation. So most of it's there today. Everything you saw will be in the product fully released by August 1. The next question, and by the way, if on any of the questions, if we forget to say this, if we didn't fully answer the question, just type in a follow-up question and we'll try to answer that as well. Next question, what system does this run on? Is it available on the cloud? So Fitrix is hosted on Linux, several different flavors of Linux. And yes, it can be hosted in the cloud. That's an option. The client is Windows, and so any flavor of Windows. We can certainly meet with you offline and talk about more detailed options there. But that's the big picture. The next question is, how do you track labor costs associated with work orders? Randy, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. We have a module called labor processing that allows you to define employees, and it's connected directly with the optional payroll application so that you can enter time from production workers on the floor, either direct or indirect labor. So it's typically entered in a time card type format. We have a data entry screen that looks very similar to what a physical time card would look like. The user enters the time that they've worked on individual production orders throughout the day, and at the end of a shift, those times are typically posted. The cost for their labor time is added to production orders and becomes part of the produced item, and then the time and attendance part of that is also transferred over to the payroll application so that it can be processed for payroll.
Thanks, Randy. The next question is, how large is the field for product numbers? Randy, can you take that one?
Yeah, our standard product number field is 20 characters long. We have optional fields to define commodities as well as UPC codes for items, and we also have descriptive fields for items that you can key in up to. We have two different base description columns for an item of 30 characters each, and then we have an extended description for every item where you can enter up to, I believe it's about 2,000 characters of text, and then that text is carried throughout the system with regards to purchasing activities, production, as well as sales activities. But the base product code ourselves that we generally use as a reference is 20 characters long.
Great. Thanks, Randy. The next question is, can you show us what the routing screen looks like? Randy, I think that's for you.
Yes, I can. Let me jump over here and show. We actually have a routing set up, a base routing for the robot that we were showing in the demonstration. So I'll go to the standard routing module. And here we'll bring up the B9 robot again. And we can see, hopefully I'll give a second for it to come up. I think, again, our screens are popping kind of slow in the webinar. But here we can see 5 labor steps to build the robot. Each labor step flows through one or more company resources. They could flow through departments, work centers, machines, teams of employees, or individual employees, and each of those resources can have a capacity so that we can do scheduling to see when an item would be produced based on the available capacity. Each labor step has a description, as well as hours, standard hours to be for setup time, as well as run labor and machine labor. So we'll use those to measure efficiency of people reporting time, and also to capture cost for the overall cost of an end item being produced. But that's an example of our routing.
Thank you, Randy. We have one more question. Please explain your standard costing. Randy, why don't you take that?
Okay. Well, whoever asked that question, I can answer that question in a few seconds, but to go through a significant detail, we could spend almost an entire day talking about that. We do support the standard costing process or standard costing valuation for all of our items, both purchased as well as produced. You can have multiple standard costs for an item, and then you pick which standard you want to use, typically at the beginning of a financial year for the cost going forward for an item. So we have a standard cost for an item, and then as an item is purchased, when the purchase receipt is recorded, the actual cost from the vendor is analyzed and compared to the standard. We generate a purchase price variance transaction that would go forward to accounting. The item would be brought in at a standard cost, and then when that item is used in the production process, the top-level items that I'm producing and shipping to customers, they would also be received in at a standard cost, and then order by order or accounting period by period, we will analyze different variances in production. I think we have about 15 different variances that we measure in terms of material cost and usage, labor cost and usage, as well as overhead cost and usage. So we do a pretty comprehensive job of analyzing actual cost to standard. And again, if you wanted more detail on that, I'd be happy to schedule a call and talk about it in significantly more detail.
Great. Thank you, Randy. Any other questions? Okay, well, it looks like that's all the questions. Final slide, please, Randy.
Jump to that. Okay.
So, while Randy's bringing up the final slide, we just want to thank everyone for their time, and we're certainly glad if you'd like to learn more about Fitrix to schedule a needs analysis over the telephone and or a personalized product presentation. If you want to schedule any of those or have other questions, feel free to contact me, James White, at the above phone number, email, or you can simply go fill out the contact form on the Fitrix website. We appreciate your attendance and hope this was beneficial. Take care.